Hi, this is Chris from the Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from Political Voices Network.
Oh, yeah. And then there's the trials. I think he's going to be convicted of at least one thing before the July convenement. I mean, that's an enormous factor in all of this.
Well,
and it's going to drive people away from Trump.
So he wouldn't have to testify before the New Hampshire primary. Yep. I mean, she was, where is this? She was at a party. Yeah. Alina Habba's at...
in New Hampshire, right?
Thank you. He was at is at his campaign return party after she just faked sick to get out of court. I mean...
Yeah, there's a, you know what? There was a TV show that I watched, and I've been racking my brain to try to think of what it was, but there was a TV show that I watched last year where someone faked having COVID to get out of doing something.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was like the morning show or one of the streaming shows.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, Alina Habba is doing the I have COVID to get out of going to an appointment.
I think a lot of people do that, actually.
Yeah, I mean,
we're
at that stage.
You retweeted Trump on the phone saying, hello, Dixville Knox, I just need 7 votes.
Yeah, that was amazing.
The fact that he's telling Nikki Haley you're delusional for not admitting that you came in second and you should get out. I mean, irony.
Yeah, see, that's the other thing about Trump and the entire universe circulating around Donald Trump is I love politics. I'm a politics junkie. I talk about it for a living. I write about it. I've been covering it since I was a kid, for God's sake, since I was in high school. And when I watch Donald Trump do things in politics, it makes me hate politics.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between a well-produced porn and porn that's like self-produced and amateur, and the people have Band-Aids and weird growths on their skin, and he's like,
no,
I don't want to see that porn.
That was produced well.
Well, it's like the
I'm
difference.
sorry, I apologize. Jody Hamilton has well-produced porn filmed at her house.
Well, it's the difference between a Playboy centerfold and the beaver hunt section in Hustler.
There you go. Thank you. Perfect.
Yeah.
Just
Like Polaroids versus
dryer.
high def.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're sitting on a dryer. Exactly. Yeah.
Bob, you tweeted...
What are you looking for?
Nothing.
You're feverishly like...
You're not supposed to
be
paying attention.
Your radio training has come in really handy for
Hey,
that.
how about that New Hampshire primary, Bob?
Yeah, I was just looking at something that I find fascinating, and this goes to an issue that I've been having on my show, I'm sure you've been having on your show, where you don't know how to take the temperature of an election because the polling is so janky.
Right. Yeah.
And if you do cite a poll, then you certainly hear about it on social media and in the comments under whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was looking at the results of last night's New Hampshire primary versus the actual polling. Nikki Haley lost by about 11 percentage points, the New Hampshire primary. The most recent polling had Trump winning by 22 points, 28 points.
Mm-hmm. Right.
20 points, 22 points, and 19 points. I think the closest one here was a Emerson College poll that had him winning by 15 points.
Yeah.
So see also janky polling remark.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're facing right now. We can't. There's no way of knowing.
The big winner. They're all losers on their side, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
But I mean, it's off. It's off by a lot. It's off by, I mean, in many polls, we're talking about a difference of 10 points between the actual results and the polling forecast.
And
so
Bob, the Bob Cesca show that I never miss. You interviewed Rachel Bidikofer. I've been talking about it all week. What a great interview that was. I'm just in full metal. You're one of the best interviewers in America, Bob Cesca.
Oh, but, thank you. And it helps to have nice guests like Rachel Bidikofer. I also said Rachel Maddow. I'd love to have Rachel Maddow on the show.
Rachel's welcome anytime. Any Rachel is welcome anytime.
But Rachel Bidikofer is a genius. She's the election whisperer. And she's one of those people like Cliff Schecter that when it comes to forecasting elections and talking about politics, it's like I'm there with bated breath, just absorbing it all osmotically into my brain.
Well, I stole her from you, like I've stolen everything from you since 1904.
Well,
she's coming up on the show. But no, I just Bob,
we steal from each other. It's an exchange of body fluids.
Is
what we do. Yeah.
And no syphilitic fingers.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. See?
Look, hold your hands up. Okay. No, but Bob, I guess my point is that you guys made some points I hadn't heard really make a lot of sense, just about how tribal they are on the other side. And that, so I don't know how you're going to, when you talk about approval ratings, we should stop freaking out about Biden's approval ratings, because Rachel made a great point about the day after the election, they said the economy sucked. because Biden's in charge. You know what I mean? Like they're just never going. Or at the height of COVID, they're like, Trump's doing a great job. You know, I mean, I'm not sure you can get an accurate analysis because it's, you know, they're so tribal. And they just they always have to say everything sucks because Biden's president, right?
Yeah, they're tribal as they stumble into the propeller again, which is exactly what they're doing with Donald Trump. This is a rare occasion, Stephanie, where I don't feel intense anxiety about how this is all going to play out in November. I'm feeling relatively confident for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still kind of the don't get happy guy.
Yeah.
But I'm feeling more confident than maybe I should. But all I'm doing is I'm looking.
Yeah. I'm the same. But
I'm
Rachel said, like Rachel Bennett said on your show, I want us scared. Right. I want us running like we're down all the time because I'm afraid
and that's
to,
the thing.
you know, say, oh yeah, get it because you're right. You're in my head. Don't get happy.
Oh yeah. Well, here's the thing. I mean, the consequences of the election should terrify us all. But the mechanics of how we get to November, I'm feeling pretty good about, only because the trend line for Donald Trump has been loss after loss after loss. He is a gigantic loser.
Yeah.
And on top of that, there are all these other factors playing into the potential for him to lose big in November, which is, first of all, I mean, we're talking about diminishing returns for Donald Trump. I think his support is at a ceiling. I think we're talking about a lot of anti-Trump sentiment because of the Dobbs decision, anti-Republican sentiment that's going to drive people to vote against the Republicans this year.
You retweeted Rachel Bittencofer, who said, you know, I absolutely loathe the trust women messaging. They're my rights. I don't give two S's if you trust me to have them. I mean, you know, you cannot underestimate the Roe rage. If Donald locks it up tonight, it means more time in which voters will hear exclusively from him as the presumptive nominee, reminded how truly effed up he is every day from now until November, only he's far worse than he was in 2020. I mean, we just played a soundbite on Fox News. They're saying, oh my God, these clips are brutal.
Yeah.
Right, and we forget, because we cover it with our faces pressed against our computer screens 24/7, we forget that the vast majority of voters don't really pay attention to politics as much as you and I do.
Yeah,
and so they're going to hear...
You said it on Twitter, and you say it on your show all the time, Bob. You said, to be clear, I believe, as I always have, that regular voters who aren't always engaged in politics need to hear how deranged he is, how much worse he's become. Often ignoring him won't make him go away, but nauseating Trump fatigue will. And that's why you and I both play clips or make fun of him or whatever, because, you know, it's someone was saying, how did they say it on Twitter? That, you know, his dementia is finally breaking through the bad journalism is a positive sign, right?
Yeah. It's one of those things where it feels counterintuitive to say ignoring Trump is a bad thing, because people say, well, he's an attention whore and he wants people to talk about him. That's true. But you know what? The vast majority of people, as I was saying, they don't really pay attention as much to what's going on in politics. So we have to remind them. And I think the best argument against Donald Trump is Donald Trump himself. Yeah. I think hearing Donald Trump, and I was really gratified a few years ago that John Oliver, in particular, said this about Tucker Carlson. He said, well, you know what? Tucker Carlson's already famous. Talking about Tucker Carlson is not going to make him more famous, especially among people who hate Tucker Carlson. And the same goes for Donald Trump. And Chris Hayes was saying something like that on MSNBC a couple of nights ago, where he's saying, it's a bad idea to ignore Donald Trump. And I always put it this way. I always create this analogy. Imagine if the Republicans stopped talking about Hillary Clinton. Would that be good news or bad news for the Democrats?
Yeah.
Or stopped talking about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden? Would that be good news or bad news for us?
Also,
it would obviously be great news for Democrats.
Take a page from, since this is the all Rachel show we're talking about, take a page from Rachel Maddow last night when she said, well, we're going to go to Trump with a caveat if he starts lying. And sure enough, they cut away because he said, I won New Hampshire, not just the primaries, twice. And she's like, okay,
oh my God.
Here we go. Donald Trump lost New Hampshire both in 2016 and 2020, but he just says it. How about yesterday? People are coming from mental institutions all over the world, and there's nothing to base that. He just says it. I mean, I love this tweet. MAGA, let's be clear. The only reason why you say everything was better with Trump, despite all the evidence to support that it wasn't, is because Trump told you it was better. And again, he lied. He knows he lied, and you were conned again. But I mean, nothing we can do about that, I guess.
Yeah, I had a friend when I was a little kid. I don't know, I was 6 years old or something like that. And he came over to our house and he proceeded to spill Kool-Aid all over our floor. And my mom was upset and she's cleaning up the Kool-Aid and whatever. And this kid just announces to my mom, "Hey, don't worry, I'm bionic like my brother." Just a blur, just a flagrant lie, and looping his brother into it too. And every time I hear Donald Trump lie, I think about that kid who lived up the street from us, who came to our house and announced to my mom that he was bionic like his brother. There was no context to that. It was just
your mom's like,
an
"Get the
outright
fuck outta here,
lie, and everyone listening to my voice is going, "Yes, of course, the kid's not bionic. Neither is his brother."
Your mom's
And we
like,
say
"Listen, you
that-
little bull artist, get them out."
Right.
Go
And
suck
by the
up
way, my
someone
mom's
else's
listening
Kool-Aid.
to this right now and going, "I can't believe Bob remembered that." You remember that
I
story?
personally can't get enough pictures of you as a child because you're like 17 times bigger than all the other kids in
Yeah.
the picture.
Yep.
And just as handsome
Yeah.
as you are now, but huge, and it's fantastic.
Just a gigantic round head. Just a giant, a big
Every picture looks
circle
like
with
Gulliver's
cheeks.
Travels.
Yeah. There are pictures on my Instagram of me as a baby with my gigantic circular head.
Yeah, your poor mother.
yeah.
Jesus,
How-
what was
how are
like
you-
pushing that
Oh,
out?
yeah.
How are you able to hold your head up? I mean, my God, all that weight.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God. Well, my mom tells stories about the childbirth. So, it wasn't the head; it was the shoulders
always
that
the
caused
The
the problem.
shoulders.
You were
Okay.
like a baby elephant. Oh, you retweeted Zach, who said elephants are born weighing 250 pounds. They are the biggest babies on earth, except for the people mad at Taylor Swift for being excited at a football game.
Oh God, yes.
That's
You know,
fantastic.
I barely understand what's going on with
Me
Taylor
neither.
Swift and the sports ball, but
Whatever
whatever
I'm like,
it is,
wait,
I know
he
that
made
a
a
lot of
heart
people.
at his girlfriend, and that's
Yeah, that's
something
not
bad.
good.
I
Yeah,
know. Okay.
just a lot of men who, at one point or another, some woman laughed at their tiny penis, and now they're upset at Taylor Swift. You know, it's
Yeah.
yada yada, tiny penis, yada yada yada. Oh, I hate Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Why don't you
before
shut
we
up
go,
about football?
I brought up the Middle East because we were talking about Palestinian protesters, outside, Biden's talking about choice for women, so it's not, but, obviously I'm seeing these articles, Muslims, Biden's approval rating went from 70 to 17, like they're not going to vote for him. How, because I don't want to minimize people's, feelings and emotions around this, but I was talking about the gubernatorial debate out here. I thought it was interesting because I agreed with all three of our fantastic Senate candidates. Barbara Lee, who is notoriously anti-war, she said killing 25,000 civilians, it's catastrophic and it will never lead to peace for the Israelis nor the Palestinians. I agree with that. Adam Schiff said, I don't know how you can ask any nation to support a ceasefire when their people are being held by a terrorist organization. I agree with that. Katie Porter, who's sort of in the middle, she said, ceasefire is not a magic word. You can't say it and make it so, but we have to push as the United States as a world leader for us to get to a ceasefire. Again, as Chris said, some nuance, about a really complicated issue that's been going on forever.
Yeah.
Steve Garvey just said, he stands with Israel yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Like, that's all they have are slogans over there that don't, that's never going to get us to a two-state solution, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely not. It's, oh God, it's such a complicated and difficult subject to talk about. But
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. Everyone supports the Palestinian people. Everyone supports the Israeli people. It's Netanyahu, first of all, has to go, and
Yes.
Hamas has to go.
Yes.
I think it's,
Period.
yes, it's
Both of
the details are very, very complicated, and it creates a lot of animosity, a lot of headbutting, obviously. But the basics of it are fairly simple. We're talking about a radical regime running the West Bank, and we're talking about a radical regime running Israel right now. And so neither of those groups, with obviously Netanyahu at the taking the lead on the Israeli side, neither of those groups are exercising any sort of restraint right now.
And yesterday's
they need
stories
to,
that 21
and,
Israeli
it's-
soldiers just got killed. I'm like, oh God, this is going to escalate forever.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I'm not breaking any news by saying that Netanyahu is a terrible leader for Israel right now, because he's making things worse for the Jewish people by being so extremist with his reaction to the terrorist attacks and so forth. So obviously there needs to be a change there before anything gets done.
Yeah. By the way, Kimberly Johnson, your girlfriend, your refrigerator sex partner, with her angry vagenda of manicide.
Yep.
I just thought, there's a lot of tweets about it, but I'm sure she said the same thing. How just hilarious but awful that Barbie, the female director and star, did not get nominated in a movie that made $1 billion about patriarchy. Only Ken.
Right. That is the literal plot.
Literal plot of the movie.
Right.
Yes. And the shame of it is not just the fact that it illustrates the point of the movie, the fact that
Yes.
Greta Gerwig didn't get a director nomination. The entire concept, the message, the voice of Barbie, the voice of that movie is Greta Gerwig.
Yes.
It is so cruel. Greta Gerwig is inextricably tied to the success of that movie.
And Margot Robbie was fantastic. I mean, I'm not saying I thought Ryan Gosling was great too, but it is.
I mean, those of us who know that town.
I was saying the Republican Party are not going to nominate Nikki Haley because they're racist, but they're also sexist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, a movie like Barbie so seldom ever gets made. And that's one of the things that needs to be celebrated. The fact that Greta Gerwig stuck her neck out and made this movie that has one of the most solid statements of, the last year, if not the last 10 years.
Yeah.
She deserves accolades for that. And the fact that she didn't get it is
See, because
bad,
you've been in radio
very
so
bad,
long, you know
bad.
that very rude break sign I'm making is
I know it.
very long. And because I could talk to you forever, Bob Cesca.
We're late.
Squee.
We're very late.
Yes.
Now
Thank
shut
you,
up. I
Stephanie.
love you, Bob. Goodbye. The Bob
Love you,
Cesca
Stephanie.
Show.
Bye-bye.
Sexyliberal.com.
Hey all, Glenn Kirschner here. I hope you'll join me on my new audio podcast, Justice Matters. I'll be using my 30 years as a federal prosecutor and Army JAG to unpack, break down, and explain the legal issues of the day, particularly where the legal intersects with the political. Please look for Justice Matters with Glenn Kirschner wherever you generally get your podcasts.